If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and at the end of the presentation, then I'll be able to take your questions. Okay. So as I said, I'm just returning from our retreat. We do I was going to say annual retreat. It's not annual anymore because we now do retreats twice per year. This is the second one we've had this year. I see a question come into the chat. This is the second one we've had this year, and just really wonderful to be able to walk journeys of healing with people. I see a question in the chat, but I'm not able to access it just now. So if you just bear with me, as soon as the presentation is over, then I'll stop sharing the screen and I'll go over to the chat and I'll kind of answer all the questions that are there. Okay. So as I said, we've just finished our second retreat for this year, and really on a high, tired, but really on a high, really, really excited, and glad that people trust us with their journey of healing. And we had 2 sets of mother-daughter at the retreat. Now, our retreats are not advertised as mother-daughter retreats, so I'm always excited and amazed when a mother and a daughter will decide to come and heal together. And one of the mother-daughter pair, she was only 14, and mother noticed some things and decided that she was going to take her to the retreat. And I kind of had a conversation where I said to her, look, I don't think the content is going to be appropriate for her or she'll be able to understand. So I'm not going to let her sit into all the sessions with us, but I'm going to do some sessions on with just you two. However, she was able to manage the sessions. She engaged, she answered questions. I did a lot of role play. When I do these retreats, I do a lot of activities. So there was a lot of work that she and her mom could do together, which was amazing, because then, there was a lot of realization that mom was coming to, and they could work through them together, which was great. And mom got directions from me on how she could lead the conversations and how she could lead the questions and the things that she could do, because mother needs to heal in order to be able to be available for her daughter. So that was amazing to see. So for those who are meeting me for the first time, my name is Joanna Daniel. I am a counselor, a trauma-informed counselor. I do online face-to-face and telephone counseling. I mostly do online and telephone. However, I like to see my clients, so I see what I'm working with. And I work from home, or I live in Wales. Yes, so I work in Carmarthen as well on a Monday and on a Wednesday. As I was talking about the retreats just now, we do retreats every year. We do 2 retreats every year now, one in March and one in November. So a spring retreat and an autumn retreat, kind of to set people up for the summer and also for the winter time when things are difficult. But we also did this, do 2 retreats just in case people are not able to attend one, then they can attend the other one. Our next retreat is the weekend of the 25th of April, 2020. So, if you're interested, sign up for that one. We also do online courses, and we do conferences, online conferences. Our conference this year was live in Leeds. And it morphed into a retreat because people kind of wanted more than one day. The one-day conference wasn't enough for people. They wanted more. I'm also an international speaker. And as I said, I'm a counselor and I'm an author. I've written a few journals and ebooks that are available online and via the website. Okay, so what are you going to learn in this Healed Daughter masterclass? And also I kind of talk about why it was important, because it's important, one, because as daughters, we hear a lot about father-son relationships. And many years ago, I wrote a blog post that says a woman needs her mother too, because there's this, the conversation and the dialogue is around father-son relationships and sometimes father-daughter relationships and the importance of that. But one of the relationships we don't really spend time and looking at is the mother-daughter relationship. And certainly as I became a mother of a daughter, I realized how much I needed my mother and how much I needed guidance and the things that I had to process and grieve from and heal from in order to be the kind of mother that I want my daughter to be able to have. And I put this in a Facebook post recently, that one of the quotes that really guided me around my parenting and the kind of woman I wanted to be long before I had children or even knew I was going to have any. It's a book I read by Toni Morrison, and it's called Sulla. And in Sulla's mom and her grandmother was having a conversation, and she said to her mom, "Did you love me?" And she said, "What did you mean I love you? I stayed alive for you." So in answering the question, "Did I love you?" she didn't say, "Oh yes, of course I loved you. Here is why I love you." But she said, "I stayed alive for you. That means I sacrificed for you. And if I sacrificed for you, that means I love you. You mustn't ask if I love you because I made all these sacrifices." And it wasn't, children kind of don't recognize sacrifices. What we want is connection, because we were wired for connection. Our natures are formed to connect from the first moment that we have life. You know, we kind of were wired for connection. And that person who we most want that connection from is our mothers. We want to connect. Incidentally, yeah, I'll say that later on. We were wired for connection, right? And in the relationship, if mother responds, then there's a pattern of safety that's created. If mother responds to that connection that we want, there's a pattern of safety that's created. If mother does not respond to that connection that we want, then that safety is not created. And it kind of sets us up for sometimes how life is going to be for us. And that's why I'm having this masterclass, because I'm seeing a lot of daughters that are needing mothers, needing that place of safety, didn't have that pattern of safe connection with her, and the results of that. And we fight our way through life, and we don't have to do it alone. I'm a firm believer that we do not have to do everything on our own, that we can learn from others, that we can, when we share our pain, and we, as Brene Brown says, when somebody else understands and empathetically connect with that, then we find that place of safety where we can learn together, we can grow together, we can share our hurts together, and we can heal together. Okay, so that's one of the driving forces behind retreats as well, because that happens a lot there, and where people can heal together. It was beautiful this weekend to watch. So what are we going to learn? We're going to learn tools to communicate your needs safely. Sometimes it's not safe. I'm going to kind of share a little bit about why it might not be safe and how you can maintain safety for yourself if you want to communicate with your mom. How to establish and maintain safe boundaries. They are necessary. Every healthy relationship have boundaries, and yours might not have any, or mother is probably get away with whatever she wants to get away with, or there might be numbing and withdrawing and isolation. There might be punishing with silences. Whatever it is, you can still maintain safe connection. And these kind of things won't happen if you're not healed, if you're not looking after you and you're hurt. If you're ignoring it, then you're kind of just tripping yourself into the same pattern with your mom. We're going to learn how to we're going to talk about at least how to advocate, some of the things that you need to do in order to start self-advocating with her. And if she's a dominant person, if she's a dominant figure, and she knows how to kind of get her way with anger, then there might be some fear around, how do I even begin to advocate for myself? And if there are cultural differences, in some cultures, mom is kind of just ultimate authority, and whatever she says goes. And if you challenge that, then the world knows that you're disrespectful and you're this kind of child. And so lots of us from very early learn a pattern of interaction with our mothers. We learn that if we're sweet, if we're nice, if we agree, if we're favorable, then we get noticed, we get praised. And so we learn how to be people pleasing as we grow older, because that's what we learn to do. That's the pattern of connection that we have with our mothers. We learn how to talk about the elephant in the room and strategies to build a bridge to the future, if it's appropriate. Sometimes it's not always appropriate to build this bridge to the future. So if it's appropriate to build a bridge to the future. Now, why is the phone ringing in the middle of my presentation? I'm going to ignore it though and continue. It shouldn't have been in here. So one of the first things that we have to do when we are learning how to self-advocate or anything else is to, or even to set boundaries, is we have to learn how to identify our needs. What are our needs? Sometimes we don't take the time to identify what they are, because if you're going to have a conversation with anyone, if you're going to have a conversation with mom around advocating for your needs to be met, then you need to know what those needs are. Okay, if you know that you want connection with her and the likelihood of that happening might be slim because of how she responds, then need to carve a space out where you go, well, what do I want from her? What do I want when I have this conversation with her? What do I want to achieve? And learn how to kind of decide for yourself what you want. It's really important to understand who she is, what she is, and what you might be able to get as well. So being able to identify what you want is crucial and really important. Like, do I want validation? Do I want her to say sorry? Do I want her to, is it a hug I need? Is it conversation I need? Is it somebody to go for a drink with I need? Is it a grandma that I need? What do I need from her? Yeah. So identify what you need from the relationship, from the conversation that you're going to have with her. Really be very clear with yourself about that. And if needs be, you need to practice with someone to say, can I just go through this with you? And I'm going to talk later on about PDFs and stuff like that. Can I just go through this with you to just say, what am I going to talk to my mom about, and what are some of the things I need from her? Yeah. So be able to identify that and to think through that really clearly. Okay. Because this is an emotive subject. And so you might become upset, you might become angry, you might become frustrated. All of these things are normal. I want to say all of these things are normal behaviors that are common and predictable when we're in the emotional side of the brain. And because this is an emotive topic, chances of you becoming angry really quick, easily, becoming irritable, becoming frustrated, becoming angry, it is highly likely. And if you go to her in that place, mom's gonna think that you're coming for an argument, because she's going to respond in the emotional side of the brain as well, and your emotions and hers come together, and there's this dance that's going on that nobody understands, and you leave the interaction frustrated because that's not what you wanted. You wanted to go have a conversation with her where you can say, this is how I feel and this is what's going on for me. So it's really important that before you go, that you're very clear, that you have a strategy and that you have the outcome that you want. And I'm going to teach you about how to kind of decide on small incremental outcomes, not the massive, can we have a relationship, because she might not be able to do it. And it might not be safe for you to have it. It might take time. You might want to make sure the relationship is safe before you open yourself to that. Okay. It might be necessary. One of your needs might be to mourn the loss of what you never had, because you deserved connection. You were wired for it. You deserve connection with your mom. She wasn't able to connect with you, and that left a deficit. That's a loss that needs to be grieved, that needs to be acknowledged, that needs to be tended to, that needs to be grieved, so you can move on. Okay. So if you go with all of that, chances of any kind of bridge happening might be very limited, especially if mom's not doing her own healing work. So because you're doing yours, because for example, you're here, so because you're doing yours, you can go to her in a different place and you'll not be dragged into a dance where you're both in the dominant side of the brain. Okay. So that's identifying your needs. What's my need? What do I need? What do I need? I have a need for support. I have a need for encouragement, appreciation. I have a need for safety. I have a need, I just want somebody to talk to sometime. Try in the first instance, if there's no relationship, not to let the need be for her to see the error of her ways and to see what she has done wrong, because the chances of that happening are very slim. So decide before on what do I need from her? What do I want? And I mean, you can also decide if you want anything or not, because being here to identify your needs and to be able to heal from the wounds that is created from lack of connection is not necessarily to have a relationship with her, because that might not be possible in all cases. All right. Then we're going to talk about boundaries. Every safe relationship have boundaries. And if there's whatever the relationship is, there needs to be some boundaries. So we set boundaries in different ways, as you know. So sometimes certain people have boundaries, well, don't really have any boundaries, because sometimes we're just open. We're just open to anything and anybody, and anything, anybody say anything to us, and it's okay. But healthy relationship have boundaries, whether they're physical boundaries, intellectual boundaries, whether they're rigid. Some people's boundaries are very rigid, where they just cut you off, and I will have nothing to do with her. That's a rigid boundary. It's a, I'm not saying it's a wrong boundary. I'm saying it's a rigid boundary. It's a, I don't want to have anything with you. You're not safe. I'm going to keep you over there, and I'm coming over here. I'll send your Christmas card, a birthday card. I'll text to say Happy Easter. And that's about all the contact I want to have with you. And for some relationship, that might be what's going to be working, and what's going to be easier for you to have. Okay. If there's any kind of connection at all, any kind of contact rather at all, and you want to make sure that she respects you, notice that you're grown up now, you want to be treated as the grown up that you are, and you want her to see that, and you notice that there's a pattern of disrespect, then you will really need to set some boundaries. And initially, maybe they might be rigid boundaries, like you, for example, might say, I could you please call before you come over? I don't want you to just appear at my house. I'd rather if you let me know that you're coming, and I can let you know if that's a good time for me. Okay. So that's a very rigid, that's a not a very rigid boundary. That's a rigid boundary. Or, one that's a little bit more flexible can say, she can come in it and whenever she wants, as long as she knows that you're home. But you can say, this room, I don't want you to go into my bedroom. Or when I'm disciplining the kids, I don't want you to intervene. Please don't say anything. I'd appreciate if you didn't say anything when I'm disciplining the children. Or don't comment on what I eat, or how I eat, or how I keep the house. And, you decide on the things that you want her to respect. Now, in order to set the boundary, you need to identify, we started with identifying your needs. You need to identify what's important to me. What's important to me? What are my values? What do I need? And when I'm setting a boundary, what is it that I want her to see? Okay. Because a relationship that is healthy have boundaries. And here's some benefits of healthy boundary setting. It contributes to your well-being, freedom from bad behavior. It kind of shows people with bad behavior parameters. And if your mom's one of those people, it shows them the parameters that you're going to be operating with them in. This is as far as you can go, and I'm not going to let you go any further. It increased self-esteem and self-respect. So when we have boundaries with mom, it increases our self-respect. So you know that, yes, I feel good about myself, that I could tell her that I want her to call before she comes. I don't want her to turn up. I want her to ask me permission before she gives my number to relatives. I want her to, whatever it is that you do, it increases self-respect. So you respect for yourself. And you also get more respect from others. Sometimes her, even though she might not say it. But what you will do is you're defining the relationship. And sometimes, sometimes mom, you will hear mom having conversations with her friends about, what, guess what? This is what my daughter did. My father-in-law was coming to spend some time with us. And we are plant-based all the way. And we didn't want to have the confusion in the house of having meat, and the children is confused by that. So we made a decision that we were going to just do plant-based still. God has blessed me, and the food tastes good. And one day I heard him talking to his wife, and he was here for 6 months. So that's a long time to just eat plant-based if you're not used to it. And I heard him talking to his wife and said, you know what? Joanna made her own burgers, and she makes her own nut roast. And he was kind of showing off. And, that was me worried, because sometimes when we set boundaries, we're a little bit worried about that boundary, whether or not it was too rigid. But he didn't mind it. So people respect you when you set boundaries. And, boundaries is a requirement for direct, honest communication. So there's no gray areas. There's no, is this what she wants? Isn't this what she wants? Because you're very clear. Now, if you struggle with setting boundaries, then there is help and support for you to identify what your needs are and to heal those areas so that you can set some boundaries. Okay. So here are some guidelines if you want to set boundaries. Back up your boundary setting with an action. So maintain the parameters. You can't set it and then you backtrack because they're going to go, is she serious? Isn't she serious? I'm not sure. And especially if it's a mom without her own boundaries or with an inability to see yours, that's kind of like, yay, she's not serious. I don't have to take her seriously. Also, be direct, firm, and gracious. Say it with a smile, but be firm and stick to it. Don't debate or over-explain your boundary. Your boundary is not up for debate. If you say, Mom, please call me before you come. I don't want you to just turn up at my house. Okay. And she might want to say, well, I'm your mother. I can come whenever time I want to. My grandchildren are there. What if I'm worried about you? What she might say. Don't feel the need. Don't defend yourself. Remember, we talk about the dominant brain. That's where she's going, where she's becoming defensive. It's very easy to be dragged into that. So because that now, some of the things that we can do to calm the sympathetic system, the dominant brain, is to deep breathe. Deep breathing is excellent for soothing. Just take deep breaths in, out, make your tummy expand. Few minutes, just tell yourself the truth, ground yourself, and don't respond. So you're not allowing yourself to be dragged into a debate around your boundary because it's not debatable. Okay. And I know that this is going to take a minute. This is going to take a few days. It's going to take a while. So don't beat yourself up and don't overthink it right now as you hear this, like, gosh, I could never do that. Or when would I do that? How will I do it? Don't overthink it just now. Just listen to the information. When I send the replay, listen to the replay again, and practice. It will take a while. Have support. One of the things around setting and maintaining boundaries is we need support sometimes to be able to do that. Okay. And stay strong. Don't give in. You're important. Your boundaries are important and they need to be respected. So have support when you set them and stay strong. Don't give in. And self-advocacy. Self-advocacy is really, really, really important. It's probably going to be important as well when we're creating boundaries. Because, for example, in order to self-advocate, you need to know what your needs are. You need to be able to communicate those needs, in order to advocate for yourself, right? So, sorry, I think I need some water. Here are some things that you can do to self-advocate. What are your needs? I talked about that earlier, being able to recognize and identify them. When you're self-advocating, start small. So here's an example of self-advocacy. You say, I want you to not give my number to family without relatives without my permission. Okay. So she does that, and she do some other things. You know how we say choose your battles? Start small in advocating for yourself. You can advocate for yourself, for example, for your side of the argument, the way you remembered it. She might say, oh, but you said this and you said this is what I say. You can advocate for yourself for your side of the conversation, your side of the argument, without being dragged into a discussion, without being dragged into a debate or feeling the need to defend yourself. You can just state how you remember it and what your side of the story is and leave it at that. So that's you advocating for yourself. And start small, advocate for your side of the story, advocate for a need that you want met or a boundary that you want her to respect that she disrespected. Advocate for yourself in, a plan that is made and something that you don't want to do. Advocate for yourself in those. Start small first. Know what your rights are as well. So we can advocate for ourselves when we know what our rights are. Know what your rights are. There's some cultures that demand certain things of children. So know what your rights are and kind of advocate for yourself within that, using the law if you have to to help to kind of buttress your argument. I talked about getting support for boundary. You need support as well if you want to self-advocate. If mother is really rigid, isn't prepared to change, and you're advocating for yourself, you've not cut her off, you're choosing not to make your boundaries rigid, but you're wanting to be flexible, and you want some help in learning how to be consistent and do it consistently. And I talked about knowing what your rights are. I hope that's really clear. Then there's another thing I want to talk about, and it's communicating, because all of this kind of hinges on effective communication. How do we communicate? I talked about the brain and some of the things that happen when we are in the dominant system, when we're in the emotional side of the brain. If you're in the emotional side of the brain and mom's in the emotional side of the brain, the conversation's not going to end well. It's going to be an argument, and you're going to leave feeling irritable, cross with yourself, deflated, because that's not what you want. You want a healthy relationship, even if there's no close connection. Because what will happen is, as you grow and as the relationship grows, she'll learn to respect you. Even if she don't like it, she will respect it eventually. Okay? And you deserve that respect. You deserve all that respect. So here is some effective communication tools. Use I feel statements. Use I statements versus you statements. Not, you're not a good mother, you never did this, you never did that, you did that for my brother, you didn't do it for me, you did that for my sibling, you never did it for me. Use I statements like, I felt sad when you, if it's safe. Sometimes mother is not safe enough for you to be vulnerable. So you know what she's like. So be very careful and protect yourself if you need to. But don't say you don't do this and you don't do that, because when we do that, people feel attacked. And when people feel attacked, what do? They defend. And when they defend, they go into the dominant system. You trip in there too, and an argument is there, and that's not what you want. So use I statements and watch your body language. Watch your verbal and your non-verbal communication. How do you present? Sometimes we think our tone is calm, but our attitude and our face say something else. Our bodies are tense and our face is set. And so the people we're talking to don't read what we say, but they read our body language, because our body language make up more of our communication than the words actually. So watch your body language, because you're communicating with that as well. And she'll see defensiveness, she'll see aggression, and of course, that's not going to go down well. That's going to trip her into the dominant system as well, because that's where you would be if your body language is communicating that. Avoid, like things like eye rolling and sarcasm, and kind of measure your tone. So you're not doing all of these things to appease. You're doing all of these things because you're coming from a place of healing. You're coming from a place of self-awareness. You're coming from a place of self-control. Those are things that we can only do when we've allowed ourselves to process and heal. Don't interrupt the other person. That's one thing. Although, depending on mother, some people talk and they don't give you a word in edgeways. If that's the case, of course, you want to interject. And that's why it's so important to determine what the outcome is before you go, so you know what you're not going to be dragged into. Think before you speak. It might be necessary to plan what you're going to say if you're going to communicate with her. It might be necessary to plan what you're going to say. Listen well and don't be defensive. And I kind of raced through that because there's some things that I wanted to do as well. I want you to recognize who is wounded. Recognize the inner wounded child. When I said that we were wired for connection, and that we kind of automatically turn to our mothers, and if we never receive back that signal for communication, for connection, then that's that's hurtful, isn't it? So that sometimes we walk around with these wounded little girls inside of us that are not being healed yet. So that wounded little girl needs care and attention. She needs affection. She needs validation. So way before we even go, we want to be able to look after the wounded little girl, to make sure that she is safe, she's protected, so that by the time you get to go talk to mom, if you decide to, when you're starting to set boundaries, to self-advocate and learning to communicate, that your wounded inner child is looked after. Okay. And here are some triggers, especially around this time of year, some triggers that you might want to look out for. Seeing families together can be a trigger. Particular songs can be a trigger too. But just, this time of year, seeing families together, there's a lot of fuzzy, warm adverts on television, on YouTube, and Facebook, and everywhere. Seeing mother and daughters together shopping and putting up the Christmas tree and doing all of these nice activities. So just be aware that might be triggering for you. Look at, how do I look after myself when I'm triggered? So that's the inner child being triggered. What are the things that you do to soothe and to comfort, to sit in the discomfort and to look after yourself? So that, because if you don't do that, if you don't look after yourself when you're triggered, it's going to happen again and again and again and again and again. What you want to do is to find a way to soothe her, to comfort her, to talk to her. Today we did some play where we engaged a positive memory. So you can use art, or some people still use Play-Doh, just coloring books, anything that is soothing and calming to that little girl who is needing her mother. Sometimes being alone can be a trigger. Angry expressions can be a trigger if that's what you're used to receiving from mother. So angry expressions can be a trigger. If you're used to getting the silent treatment, that can be a trigger, because the silent treatment, because they're in the dominant system, again, they're numbing, that silent treatment can trip you in to the dominant system too. And it might trip you into people pleasing and go into codependency, because that's what you used in the past to engage her and to get a response from her. And so you might be tempted to do that again. Okay. Certain kinds of people might be a trigger. People in authority, a dominant personality, a subservient person, whatever it is, that just know what it is that might likely trigger me and send me into that system. And just be aware of guilt and shame as well around. Somebody said, I put a post on Facebook about a woman parenting from a place of pain, and how if we were parented from a place of pain, we inherit that pain, and somebody said, I saw your post. I didn't want to read it because I know it would be talking about me. So know what your triggers are in terms of shame and pain and guilt. What are those things that needs addressing, that needs looking after, that need for you to pay attention to, so you can look after that, so you can heal that, so that you can be at a place where you can mourn and grieve the loss of what you never had, so you can build the child up, and if need be, build a bridge to the future if it's safe and necessary. Okay. So we talked about communicating and how important it is to have these skills to communicate safely, use I statements, not you statements, to listen, to plan ahead of what you want to say and what the outcome that you want. Now I know that this time will not allow us to kind of go into everything, and I wanted to tell you about a live course that I have that's going to be starting on the 2nd of December. A live course. Now, this is a blog post, just before I get into that, this is a blog post that I wrote that's kind of gained quite a lot of attention on Facebook and, text messages. A man called me actually to say, can we talk about it? Because he saw his daughters, he saw his wife and his daughters, and he wanted to talk through that. Where sometimes our mother, there's a transference of pain that we receive from our mothers, sometimes a transference of anger, a legacy of numbness, of withdrawal and isolation. Because when a woman peering from a place of pain, those are the things that she kind of passes on to us, and we inherit those things. Okay. And in this course, I'm going to address those things and help you to heal. And we're going to do the course live. So you'll have me like this. The way I normally run courses is I do a presentation, we talk through it. We have access to do breakout rooms where you and I can go in a room together and talk through the workbook. I do lots and lots of worksheets, workbooks, so we can work through specific areas to get you to a place of healing. The course, of course, is called Healed Daughter. And you know what, I must share that I'm not only doing this because I'm doing this from a professional place where I've run retreats and I've worked with mother daughter in retreat settings. I've worked with mother daughter like this as well, counseling over, online counseling. I've worked with mother daughter in person where they're specifically building a bridge to the future, and I help them to formulate a value system for both of them, because the daughter grew up and her value system changed. Mother struggles with that, and we build a bridge to the future, and they have healthy relationships going now. I'm not only doing it because of those things, I'm doing it because I've had to heal. My mother is the kind of woman like Sula's grandmother, where she stayed alive for me. My mother, and I talked about her this weekend, she's a strong advocate. We knew that she was our defender and she would defend us, but there was no emotional connection for me. And that had to be healed in order for me to parent my daughter from a different place. I recognized it early, thank God. And I didn't want to parent my daughter from a place of pain, a place of any deficit. So I knew I had to heal that and grow through it so I could have what my daughter needed. If I didn't do that, I didn't struggle with my sons, but I recognized that there was something going on there that needed to be healed. And I had to process that, heal it, so I could parent from a different place. And so I could be a different woman, actually. So we're going to look at, in this life course, tips for effective communication, boundary setting, and self-advocacy. We're going to go deeper into that, where you're going to actually do worksheets and practice identifying needs and bridge building. And I say where appropriate, because it's not always appropriate to build a bridge. It might just be that you have to make the boundaries work and keep it at that. The bridge building might take a long time, if ever. Sometimes if mom's toxic, as I said, is my mother a narcissist? If mother is toxic, dysfunctional narcissist, then it might not be safe to build bridge, because it might become too hurtful and harmful. And I know it's not always need. Sometimes some mothers are the abusers, and it's not always safe to have a relationship with them. But we want to be able to identify that and see the areas that you need to work on. Okay. So that's what's contained. We have bonuses in the course where I give you PDF conversation starters. So as you're thinking about maybe having a conversation, you'll have some conversation starters, some way to start the conversation where it can be safe. It can keep you in the logical brain, where you can think and reason quickly and not be dragged into the dominant system with her and have an argument. Okay, and we'll do lots of role plays. So you'll role play with me, role play with your classmates, as it's safe and you get to know each other. Lots and lots of that, so that you can grow through your experiences and come to a place where you are confident and you are okay. Because sometimes this lack of connection with our mother don't just affect our relationship with her, but it affects relationship with females. It affects relationship with authority figures. It affects relationships in other spheres. So this healing is not just to facilitate interaction and communication with her. It's to facilitate interaction and communication with yourself, first of all, so you can be at peace and you can be settled, and also so that you can have healthy, wholesome relationships with those around you, because it does affect it. Okay. And it's a place for you to come and talk through. I was asked a question, and I have a blog post about it that is going to be published tomorrow. Can a mother hate her daughter? And that one's really, really very difficult, isn't it? But the answer is yes. And I share a story in there that it's going to be very, very interesting, about somebody that I worked with that came into therapy to heal from that. So it's very real. And I know that these relationships are not straightforward. I know that they're challenging, but I also know that we can heal from them and we can grow through them. So for this course, we're launching it now because Black Friday is coming up, and we wanted to offer you something really, really special, but it's only available for a limited time. It expires midnight on the 2nd of December. So it expires midnight on the 2nd of December. So this offer is available for only 1 week. So you have to sign up within this week to get the life course, where you have me for 4 weeks, every week, just like this, for an hour and a half, and you get the recordings. So that's like going to be, my math is not wonderful, but a lot of content that you're going to have with worksheets and PDFs and a recording to go back through at your leisure, Okay. So that's the price. If you want like that in 2 payments, let me know and I can make those arrangements for you. The thing is, after the 2nd of December, this price will double. So it's only available for this week. After Black Friday, it becomes double. Because it's my time, it's worth a lot more than that. And the information that I know you're going to be given. It's based on years of work, years of working with people, research, because I like to use research because it's so effective. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, there was a question. How can you know? Just let me know if you have any specific questions around the live course, and I'll be happy to answer them. So the question is, okay, you can hear me, right? Okay, good. The question says, how can you decide whether to build a bridge with mother or cut it off? Just have minimum contact and boundaries. I think, you know, kind of from even from a sensing place, you know, sometimes when somebody, here are some of the things that you need to look out for to know whether or not somebody's in the dominant system. They live in the sympathetic system. They just very rarely logical or able to communicate or connect. And one of the things to look for is numbing, withdrawing, or numbing, emotional numbing. And sometimes mother is like that. And if it is, that can be very damaging. So if your efforts at connection, if your efforts at bridge building in the past have yielded nothing but you feel like you're hitting your head against a stone, then it might be that you need to step back and do the work on yourself, do the grieving and the mourning so that you can move on in an okay place. And that's when you send the Christmas cards and the birthdays and stuff like that. Or if mom is abusive, if she's abusive and it will not stop despite what you do, it's really important to recognize that and to have some effective boundaries to protect yourself and to keep yourself safe. And in some of those cases, it might mean to create physical distance, not only emotional distance, but to create physical distance because she's not a safe person until she does her own work. Okay. I hope that answered that question. Do you have any questions, any more questions about the presentation or about the live course that we're starting on the 2nd of December? Well, it doesn't start on the 2nd of December. Let me tell you the date. The thing run out on the 2nd of December. The price that is on offer now runs out on the 2nd of December. The course actually starts on the Thursday, the 5th. The Thursday, the 5th. Where will the link be to sign up, as I'd like to take part? Yeah, hey. I'm so glad you said that you want to take part. So I'm just going to grab you the link right now. I'm going to grab you the link right now for you to sign up. If you want to, you know, like a payment plan, 2 payment plans, just let me know and I can make those arrangements for you as well. But I'm sending you the link to sign up now. You know, the link is in the chat to sign up for the course. I'm so looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to this. This is kind of, you're welcome. This is work. Oh, I've not sent it to the right person. Apologies. I'll put the link so everyone can see it. This is work that I love doing. I love working with mother and daughter. I love working with daughter around healing from the effects of the mother wound. I love seeing sometimes mothers become aware themselves and see the work that they need to do, and they'll do the work first. Sometimes the daughters do the work first, and that because I've seen where the daughters do the work, set the boundaries, advocate for themselves, know how to articulate their needs, and that influence mother to do the work too. If I have a script to invite mothers to join the course, well, that's interesting. If you need a script, I'll provide some conversation starters to invite mother to join the course, because I think that's interesting. Because if you do the work yourself, so that's another interesting question. Mothers were daughters too. That's what I say. But this is for healed daughters. This is for daughters. So it's not a mother-daughter course. It's for healed daughters. Now, if mother recognizes that maybe she had some experiences too, and she wanted to come and do the work for herself, then that's doable. But it's for healed daughters. So if you're going to invite her as a daughter who needs healing, but not as a mother to come and heal. So you and her can bridge build. That makes sense? Cool. Any more questions? So I'm so glad that we can welcome one participant to the course. Yay. I'm keeping it small. I'm not growing it more than 10 people. Hopefully, I want to keep the course small so I can do really effective work with you, so I can teach you how to connect, teach you how to heal, teach you how to stay in the logical side of the brain, not be drawn into dominance, how to set effective boundaries, and how to bridge build if it's appropriate, not always appropriate. Okay. If there are no more questions, I really appreciate your time. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have. You're going to get a copy of the recording. If you had signed up, you're going to be getting a copy of the recording perhaps by tomorrow. You'll have a copy of the recording, if not tonight. And yeah, you can watch it again and again as many times as you'd like. It's just going to be available. Okay, so I thank you all for your time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your questions. If you have any more questions, you can email me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Sure, yeah, you can ask a question. I'm putting my email in the chat, joanna@woundstoscars.com. If you want a payment plan, just let me know. How long does the course run? The course is for 4 weeks. Excuse me. The course is for 4 weeks, so 4 sessions. Let's see if I have a drink. That's soothing. The course is for 4 weeks, so 4 weeks live, just like this. And you will have access to the course. You'll have access to it. How long are the sessions for? 90 minutes. So it gives us time for the presentation, for question and answers, for breakout rooms. So like you and I will go into a room like this and we'll do role play. We'll go through the material and you get the resources to work through. So you'll get the resources to work through before like say the course starts on the Thursday. You'll get everything on the Wednesday. It will be in the course portal that you can go and you can download, you can work through it. And then on the day of the live course, I'll do the presentation. We'll talk through the material. You and I go in a room like this and we work through your own responses to the material. Any questions that you have. So I give you special time. Okay. So that's the format of the course. Really good questions. Thank you for them. Thank you for asking. I really do hope others will join too. Yes. I really do hope others will join too. Yes, it's going to be brilliant. I don't know of any more like this. So it was inspired by those mother and daughters that come to the retreat and by questions that I often get. So I hope people will take the opportunity to come and work specifically on that relationship. Thank you. It's needed, yeah. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, remember, I'm going to put the link for the course in the chat again. So you can go and have a look at the course. You can sign up. Or if you have any specific questions, just email them at joanna@woundstoscars.com. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday evening. Bye.